The godly doctor, speaking to Jin, shares, "Our clan builds on chi control techniques that stimulate and activate the brain as the foundation of our skills. They improve memory and speed up cognition. The activated brain can even awaken the body, enabling it to do things like this." Jin then observes the godly doctor's hand movements, identical to those he had seen before. Demonstrating his skill, the godly doctor launches a fingertip bullet at a dummy doll, precisely targeting its pelvic pressure point, glabellar pressure point, and abnormal pressure point. Jin marvels at the incredible precision of hitting unseen pressure points with just a magic finger bullet. He notes that, unlike previous demonstrations, the godly doctor didn't pierce the dummy this time but merely tapped its wooden surface. This level of control surprises Jin, who hadn't thought such precision was possible. The godly doctor then queries Jin, "How fascinating. Most children would ask why I didn't pierce the dummy like the last time, and why it was so weak." Jin answers, "Because it means you've mastered its strength." The die on the wooden wasn't touched in the slightest. Recognizing Jin's keen observation, the godly doctor compliments Jin on his astuteness. The godly doctor imparts further wisdom to Jin, explaining, "As you've just seen, our clan has achieved more than most martial artists, using the brain. Which was the root of arrogance." He reassures Jin that he will not adopt such arrogance, but instead, will learn far superior skills than any clan member before him. Jin, intrigued, asks, "Is the magic finger bullet at the center of the Jagal clan's martial arts?" The godly doctor, smiling, downplays its importance. "This is nothing." For Jin, the epitome of martial arts lies in swordsmanship or fan techniques. Yet, the godly doctor enlightens him, "This is all superficial, of course, as once you reach a deeper understanding, you will be able to utilize any weapon and technique. That's what makes our clan frightening." Jin is astonished, contemplating the prospect of mastering unfamiliar weapons. Observing the godly doctor's confident smile, Jin wonders, is that possible? He then reassures himself, considering the capabilities of his master. Curious about his own potential, Jin inquires, "Can I become the strongest in the world too?" The godly doctor, with a gentle breath, affirms, "Yes. If you completely learn the martial arts of our clan, you could become the strongest in the world." He then questions Jin's true desire. Jin hesitates, contemplating the consequences of such power. He realizes that achieving the pinnacle of martial arts might attract the little demon king, a formidable adversary who seeks out the strongest fighters. In the world of Ngango, this pursuit of strength often leads to violent confrontations. Jin is anxious about becoming a target for such powerful foes, especially recalling how Yeo Harayun, in the novel, chases after the world's strongest. This thought leaves Jin with a profound sense of unease about his potential future as a martial artist. Jin, seeking clarity, asks his master, "Master, what's good about becoming the strongest in the world?" The godly doctor ponders Jin's question, which reflects on the reason why many martial artists tirelessly train. He responds to Jin, "I guess you don't get a certificate or trophy. But I suppose you would get honor and respect. And if you were to become the strongest in the world, you would gain authority nobody else has." He then inquires about Jin's aspirations, "So what is it you want to be?" Jin, after a moment of reflection, reveals that he does not aspire to be the strongest in the world. The godly doctor, curious, asks, "Then, what do you want?" Jin, filled with hope, expresses his desire, "I want to be the greatest doctor in the world. Like you, master." This revelation surprises the godly doctor, who takes a moment before responding affectionately, "My goodness, you cutie. How can you be so cute?" He acknowledges Jin's unique ambition within the Jagal clan, noting that Jin is the first to express a desire to become the greatest doctor rather than the strongest martial artist. Jin's happiness at his master's words is evident. The godly doctor observes Jin's joy and muses that Jin is like a doctor sent from the heavens. Jean, contemplating his future, thinks that becoming a doctor is key to a long life. He recalls that despite the little demon king's rise as the leader of the demon forces, there's no record of him harming a doctor. The thought of becoming the world's greatest doctor excites Jean. He resolves to pursue this path, recognizing the challenges but driven by his second chance at life and the desire to heal his master. He feels a profound sense of responsibility and gratitude towards his master, who showed him genuine kindness without ulterior motives. Jean is determined to repay this debt and views it as his duty as a human being. The first task that Jean faces is the challenge of sensing QI. The godly doctor instructs him firmly, "It's okay for me to do so, but you must not speak or move. Do you understand?" Jean complies with his master's directive, adopting a meditative posture, remaining still and silent. The godly doctor then closes his eyes and places his hand on Jin's back. Through his hand, he begins to channel his qi into Jin's body. The sensation is so immediate and profound that Jean, unable to contain his reaction, opens his eyes instantly upon feeling it. Jean, sensing the flow of energy within him, realizes he's experiencing the master's energy. Focusing on this sensation, he feels the energy coursing through his entire body. His master then enlightens him about the grand circulation, the process of qi moving through the veins and encircling the body. Jean begins to understand the concept of inner force, pondering if it's linked to the 9 clouded absolute pulses, though he notes a distinct coldness and heaviness. As the godly doctor continues to channel energy into Jin's body, he abruptly opens his eyes and asks Jean if he can feel something solid in his energy core. Jean, unfamiliar with the concept of an energy core, speculates it might relate to the inner force contained in the 100-year pine ball. The master proceeds to share knowledge with Jean, explaining, "The bone restructuring procedure worked well. All the inner force you absorbed from the medicine ball is now yours. I will guide the awakened inner force to circulate within your body. In doing so, it will solidify, forming a sticky sap rich in life force." He informs Jean that since he is yet to learn much, the medicinal ball's essence remains largely intact in his body. The master then suggests setting aside the 100-year pine ball, planning to use the 1,000-year pine ball in the next stage of training. Jean reflects on the importance of not rushing the process, understanding the value of gradual progression. After the procedure concludes, the master, relieved and smiling, instructs Jean to open his eyes. He then proposes moving on to basic training techniques. As instructed by his master, Jean opens his eyes. The master imparts crucial knowledge to Jean, explaining, "The basic training techniques of the Jagal clan are the 5 elemental training techniques: fire, water, wood, gold, and earth. These are the 5 elements that make up our world." He then instructs Jean to begin practicing as he has been taught. Jean closes his eyes, focusing inward to sense his inner force. The master encourages him, "Now, you will try moving your inner force by yourself." As Jean takes deep breaths, the master elaborates on the interactions among the elements. Water nourishes wood, wood fuels fire, fire creates earth, earth forms gold, and gold clarifies water. Jean concentrates deeply and begins to feel the inner force moving, finding the process surprisingly enjoyable. The master continues, "The absolute order is the foundation." The Jagal clan's 5 elemental training techniques are ideal for medical techniques because they don't conflict with other inner forces and create harmony within the body. They are excellent for healing internal wounds and revitalizing energy. Jean, curious, inquires, "Then, what if I were to do the opposite?" The master explains that doing the opposite would result in absolute chaos, where the elements would clash and disrupt each other. Jean further asks if this is necessarily bad. The master acknowledges that there are times when inducing such chaos is beneficial, such as when controlling an overload of qi. Jean, contemplating this explanation, compares the concept of order and chaos to medicine and poison, reflecting on how modern medicines, despite their therapeutic intentions, can have side effects. He recalls the example of sildenafil citrate, initially developed for heart disease but later used to treat erectile dysfunction due to its side effects. Similarly, treatments for diabetes are sometimes employed for obesity. The master then shares, there are cases where certain toxins, normally harmful, are used to treat special patients. There's no inherent goodness or evil in medicine, it all depends on how it's used. Jean agrees, realizing that this principle applies to the world's 5 elements as well. As the master observed Jean, he thought to himself with a sense of pride, the core of his energy is picking up speed. He's really getting the hang of it. With every new lesson, his understanding deepens. When I teach him one thing, he grasps 10. That's the mark of a true disciple. Now that the clinic has someone to carry on its legacy, it's a momentous occasion for all healers. Indeed, what could be more significant? The scene transitions to Yu Hu presenting Jean with 5 medicinal balls, each corresponding to one of the 5 elements: fire, water, wood, earth, and gold. Jean, noticing their lack of scent, finds this peculiar compared to the refreshing aroma typical of medicinal balls. Curious, Jean inquires if he should consume all the balls at once. Yu Hu clarifies that Jean needs to select just one. Jean initially feels disappointed, suspecting this choice might be a test to assess his understanding of which element he should choose. He reflects on his previous consumption of the 100-year pine ball, associated with the wood element, and the principle of inner force training that suggests selecting a medicinal ball of the same element to strengthen it. However, Jean realizes that choosing based on this principle would contradict the purpose of learning the 5 elemental training techniques. He understands the need to apply the concept of absolute order. Thus, he decides to select the fire elemental ball, intending to use the wood energy he previously absorbed to invigorate the fire element. Upon choosing the fireball, Jean is surprised to notice a scent emanating from it, contrasting with its initial odorlessness. He theorizes that the individual effects of the 5 elemental balls might combine into a unified effect when consumed in the correct sequence. Jean hypothesizes that this process, following the absolute order, would create a cohesive circle of energy without requiring excessive inner force, relying instead on the purity of the 5 core ingredients. Jean then informs Yu Hu of his intention to take the remaining 4 balls in the proper order. Yu Hu acknowledges Jin's perceptiveness, while Jean, with a hint of humor, acknowledges that Yu Hu might have been attempting to trick him, feeling satisfied that he was attentive enough to discern the true nature of the test. Jean, sharing his insight with Yu Hu, stated, after all, what starts from wood must end with wood, after a complete rotation. This philosophical remark left Yu Hu in a contemplative silence. He thought to himself, this child is a much deeper thinker than I assumed. Yu Hu, impressed by Jin's choice, remarked to him, Master would consider you to have made the correct choice, just by selecting the fire elemental ball. Curious, he asked, how did you manage to think so far ahead? Jean responded simply, the scent. This reply left Yu Hu puzzled, leading him to question, the fire elemental ball scent? Jean then clarified for Yu Hu, I thought it was strange when I first saw the medicinal balls that had no scent. But after closer inspection, it turned out that each medicine ball had its own unique scent. And that's when I realized that when 5 scents combine together in harmony, the scents cancel each other out to become odorless. This made me reconsider the basic fundamentals of the 5 elements that Master taught me. And I reached the conclusion that I did. Upon hearing this, Yu Hu fell silent, then acknowledged Jin's wisdom, saying, You are truly wise, young master. No wonder the mighty white dragon is so excited about you. I will pass on your answer to Master. I will leave the fire element ball for you to take at your own leisure. After this exchange, Jean looked at the fire elemental ball. After a brief moment, he swallowed the fire element ball and was immediately shocked, thinking to himself, I should have expected the fire elemental ball to be spicy. 1 week later, Jean was walking in the courtyard, deep in thought and feeling frustrated. He was mulling over his routine: eat, circulate, eat, circulate. I can't tell whether I'm a person or a medicinal ball circulating machine. Interrupting his thoughts, Yu-Ho said, "We're here. You found the right place." Jean, startled, looked ahead and was amazed to see the pharmacy, exclaiming, "This is the pharmacy?" He was awestruck by its size and thought, "Wow, it's incredible," as expected of the White Dragon's hospital. Yu-Ho then explained to Jean, "The White Dragon's hospital is one of the 3 great hospitals. Clinics are small medical institutions, whereas hospitals are large institutions. That's to say, the Great Dragon's Hospital is one of the top 3 medical institutions in the world. Which is why we have branches and departments in charge of nutrition and pharmacy." Jean thought to himself, I did read about it in the novel, but to think that they had such a system in place." Yu-Ho continued, "Though some do consider food medicine, which makes use of natural ingredients with medicinal properties, to be superior, that is not to say the White Dragon's Hospital is of lesser standard." "Of course, I have experienced it firsthand," Jean replied. Yu-Ho, addressing Jean, said, "We produce several different kinds of medicine, but there are ranks in medicine as well, from high to low rank." Jean, seeing the array of medicines, exclaimed, "Wow." Yu-Ho added, "Only 1 or 2 high-ranked medicines are produced per year, so even for you, as master successor, they will be hard to come by easily." Jean thought silently, I don't want them either." Yu-Ho continued, "But even low-rank medicine, if consumed once every 3 days consistently, can provide half a year's worth of inner force, when absorbed properly." Jean, deep in thought, realized, medicine really does provide a huge benefit in Murim novels. Successors and disciples of large clans are said to take medicinal products often from a young age. I never imagined myself becoming one of them. I guess I should consider myself lucky. Yu-Ho then complimented Jean, "Anyways, you're quite amazing. How can you train like that again and again? You've hardly slept at all because of your inner force training." Feeling happy about the compliment, Jean thought, compared to my intern and resident days at the hospital, this is nothing. Back then, both my body and mental state were strained and deteriorated. If there were slaves in the modern day, they would be Korea's doctors in training. I had to get yelled at no matter what I did, yelled at by patients, their guardians, doctors, even dogs on the street. I was constantly filled with rage and sorrow and eventually became so exhausted that I couldn't feel anything at all. I realized what it meant to lose your emotions to fatigue. But here, the pharmacy workers do not hesitate to give compliments, telling me that I am amazing, and it makes me realize every time that, I truly am such a loved child. I suppose this is what it is like to be in command of the White Dragon's Hospital." As they walked, Jin's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the godly doctor's laughter. Seeing his master, Jean greeted him enthusiastically, "Master." The godly doctor, addressing Jean, asked, "Did you have a good look around my pharmacy?" Jean responded with genuine admiration, "Yeah. It is really a cool place." The godly doctor then turned to Yu-Ho, expressing his gratitude, "Thank you." Placing his hand on Jin's shoulder, he concentrated to feel Jin's condition and commented, "You have worked hard. I see that you have just entered the first stage of the 5 elemental techniques." Curious about his progress, Jin asked, "Am I advancing quickly?" The godly doctor confirmed, "Extremely quickly. Make sure you are resting adequately and that you are not overexerting yourself." Jin, acknowledging the advice, replied, "Yes, sir. I will keep that in mind." Then, the godly doctor suggested, "Now let's go eat. We must discuss housing and where you will reside as well." Jin, ready to follow his master's lead, responded eagerly, "Yes, master." The scene shifted to Jin's new place of residence, which had been under rapid construction and was now completely built. The godly doctor, explaining to Jean, said, it would usually be impossible to finish the construction in such a short period of time. But we invested a lot of manpower into it in order to shorten the construction time. Jean, amazed by the swift construction, exclaimed, "Wow," while the godly doctor continued his explanation. On one side, there are glass windows large enough to be a wall, and inside are heated stone floors and a furnace. The interior has been built with wood, and the walls have been layered with mud as you wanted. This thing you call building insulation is quite different from what we are familiar with. Jean replied, it is a house with the purpose of not allowing even the slightest bit of coldness inside. Then the godly doctor asked Jean, and is this thing called a sleeping mat really that great? You have to lie on the ground to sleep. With a smile, Jean responded, yes, this is the main point of this heated stone house. While Jean excitedly checked the mat, the godly doctor wondered, ho, won't it be too hot for you? He noted, it is already incredibly. Yu-ho, interrupting with a smug expression, said, I put a lot of firewood into the furnace, to see how hot it could get. It is truly beyond my expectations. The godly doctor, responding to Yu-ho's enthusiasm, said, the furnace alone made me feel a lot better, but this is beyond that even, while Jean is busy checking his house. Yu-ho then asked the godly doctor, aren't you curious about where he gained this knowledge? To which the godly doctor replied, we agreed not to ask him, did we not? And I am sure he will tell us one day. We have already seen the boy's sincerity. Jean greeted the godly doctor, Master, you are here. The godly doctor responded, yes, you are quite early. Jean, showing concern, asked, how are you feeling these days? With a smile, the godly doctor replied, I am in love with the heated stone floors, and I am also doing very well. I find myself being increasingly refreshed every day. It is all thanks to you. The godly doctor then shifted the focus to their training, asking Jean, now, shall we continue our training with the 5 elemental techniques? They both settled into a training position. The godly doctor, providing guidance, instructed Jean, you must concentrate the chi from your energy center into your fingertips. He then closed his eyes to better guide Jean, telling him to slowly focus on your breathing. Jean, focusing on the 5 elemental techniques, specifically fire, started to condense a swirl of fire around him. The fiery energy was so intense that it began burning all the leaves around him. A brief moment later, fire around him subsided and gust of wind blowing leaf as he completed training. Beside him, the godly doctor caught a flying leaf and, utilizing the 5 elemental fire, burned it. Jean, amazed by the godly doctor's display of skill, watched intently. Noticing Jean had opened his eyes, the godly doctor said to him, you have succeeded. Jean nodded happily, albeit humbly stating, burning these thin leaves is just about all I can do though. The godly doctor reassured him, the first steps are the same for everyone, however, you are progressing extremely quickly. He then proposed, all right, now that you have reached a new level, shall I give you some homework? As the godly doctor took his hand fan and opened it, creating a gust of wind, Jean was visibly shocked, thinking, wow, this is the first time I have seen him use a fan. The godly doctor continued his demonstration of the 5 elemental fire technique using his fan, showing Jean that the most basic property of fire is destruction. Jean observed keenly as the godly doctor explained, trees, steel, and even swords are bound to one day fall. With this, the godly doctor cut down a tree in front of them using his fan, a vivid demonstration of the power and precision of the 5 elemental fire technique. Jean was utterly shocked by the godly doctor's display of power, thinking to himself, that big tree, cut in just one go. How is this possible? And only the part that was cut has been scorched. The fire didn't spread at all. Even after seeing it with my own eyes, I still can't believe it. The godly doctor then turned to Jean and said, I hope you watched closely. Now, next is Win Chi. Jean, curious and slightly apprehensive, thought, wind qi? What is he going to do this time? The godly doctor, with a movement of his fan, generated a massive wind which transformed into a wind blade, cutting the tree in half in front of them. Jean, shocked by this display, thought, this massive thing is wind qi. The godly doctor explained, the essence of wind is transportation. With that, he used the wind to transport the upper half of the tree back to its previous place, leaving Jean dumbfounded. As Jean was still reeling from the scene, the godly doctor said, as it has been consumed by fire qi, that tree will die if left as it is. Now it's your turn. Would you try to connect them with water qi? Jean, unsure of himself, asked, me, connect that tree? The godly doctor elaborated, to save a dying tree, water signifies life. Only once you have completely made the tree whole again will this assignment be finished. Jean, touching the tree, thought determinedly, I have to save this tree. Then, the godly doctor, with a smug look, asked Jean, so, how long do you think you will need? Faced with this daunting task, Jean fell silent. In a new scene, the godly doctor and Yu-Ho were seen walking together. Yu-Ho, expressing his concerns, asked the godly doctor, don't you think it's too much? It's too difficult. You are giving him an assignment above his current level, and for his first one at that. Nobody at the clinic would be able to do it at just tier 1. The godly doctor, after a moment of silence, acknowledged, yes, that's correct. He then observed, so, it seems like you have warmed up to him a lot recently. You are talking quite a bit. Yu-Ho, taken aback by this comment, stuttered, no, well. As the godly doctor fell silent, Yu-Ho thought to himself, well, there is no one stricter than him when it comes to education. I guess no matter how much he likes him, he is not going easy on his training. However, success is not the only way to learn. I am sure he is trying to teach him how to build a good mindset. Meanwhile, Jean was diligently working on his homework, attempting to connect the tree with water qi. As Jean worked on his challenging homework, rain began to fall, adding to his frustration. Darn, not even the weather is on my side, he muttered, half in jest. I guess the tree is for hiding from rain under. He then fell silent, deep in thought. How am I supposed to heal this tree with just tier 1 water qi? Jean pondered. I wasn't even able to heal a piece of tree bark with the pea-sized amount of water qi that I was able to draw out from my energy center. Master probably knew I wouldn't be able to do it at my current level of inner force. He told me to do it, despite knowing that. Why would he tell me to do something that's impossible? To teach me despair? If that's what he wants to teach me, it wouldn't be in such a way. After a moment of contemplation, Jean began talking to himself, I don't think there's any choice for you but to die. Perhaps you'd have had a chance if he had cut you normally, but he roasted you on fire, so your internal structure has been fried as well, and probably destroyed. But, I guess you won't be dead if you think about it, since the bottom half of the root will still be alive. The tree could just regrow from there. But the fact that he told me to connect the top half to revert it to its original shape means. Jin's careful inspection of the tree's root led to a revelation. Wait, even now the tree is absorbing water, he realized. This observation sparked a train of thought in him, and he began to talk to himself, now that I think about it, water makes wood grow. He continued to ponder the relationships between the elements, wood kindles fire, and fire clashes with earth. Earth clashes with metal, and metal in return strengthens water. Suddenly, a eureka moment struck him, and he exclaimed, that's it. This just might be the answer. Jean then immersed himself in further thought, recalling the godly doctor's teachings. Master definitely said that elements that clash invigorate qi. And that this is used to treat weakened patients. That means I can use it too, right? Since water qi is what I need. He was considering the application of the 5 elemental techniques, wondering to himself, can I do it? I know just how dangerous it can be to exercise a method I have not learned yet. But no matter how many times I think about it, this is the only way. Jean, with a hint of humor, said to himself, if I die because of a tree, I will be recorded as the biggest idiot in Murim history. Determined to proceed, he thought, let's start off with Earth Chi, which has the most peaceful and resilient energy. As he attempted the elemental combination, Jean noticed, the Earth Chi is combining and increasing exponentially. I can definitely handle this. Now, if I add Water Chi to expanded metal. He observed the energy intensifying, it's doubled, and doubled again, increased 8-fold. Placing his hand on the tree, Jean transmitted the combined elemental energy. To his surprise, the tree bark started to stick together. Is this all it takes? I guess I succeeded, but there is a long way to go, he thought, completing his inspection. Then, a sudden realization struck him, what if I were to start with wood chi? If I start with wood chi, then add fire, earth, metal, and water? From 2 to 5th, its strength would be multiplied by 32 times. I guess this is why order matters more than quantity. There was a reason he told me to take the 1,000-year medicine ball later. The essence of the 5 elemental techniques are harmony and dissonance. Even if a single elemental chi were to become incredibly strong, it would only lead to chi overload. With these thoughts in mind, Jean resolved to try the new approach, half-jokingly adding, now, let's try it. Even if I fail, at least you won't be able to sue me. In the godly doctor's yard, he was conversing with Yu-Ho. I see you said he is sleeping in his room, the godly doctor noted. Yes, Yu-Ho replied, shall I wake him up? No, let's leave him be, the godly doctor decided, as I am sure he was working hard last night. He then pondered to himself, I wonder whether it is right of me to put a young child through such a difficult test. Perhaps it is not too late for me to lower its difficulty. He thought further, a master's excessive greed can waste a student's potential. Upon inspecting the tree, which was Jin's homework, the godly doctor was shocked and in disbelief. Is this really the same tree? He wondered aloud as he touched the tree and checked the energy flow. Upon closer inspection, I can see that the grooves are inconsistent. There is evidence of it being cut, as well as traces of water chi. He then shouted to Yu-Ho, it is. This is Jin Cheon he's doing. He has done it by himself without anyone's help. Yu-Ho, in disbelief, asked, he really succeeded? Yes, the godly doctor replied excitedly, in just one day, no, not a day, in just half a day, that is. Yu-Ho was dumbfounded by this revelation. The godly doctor continued, to complete an assignment 3 stages above his level for his first test so easily, it is only possible once you have combined each different element to amplify their inner force and lead it in the required direction. Such complete control is not something a young child can master, but he did it. Smiling, he said to Yu-Ho, well, he is the successor to none other than the White Dragon godly doctor, after all. It's to be expected. Ho-Ho, this is not only a blessing for me but a blessing for every doctor in Gango. I must make this in my next report. Yu-Ho, worriedly thought, we are doomed. I have heard rumors that there have already been complaints from the head of each clinic about their own disciples. Why do you keep trying to cause conflict in your reports? The godly doctor hurriedly said, I have got to get the word out to everyone in the clinic first. I can't wait for the meeting, Yu-Ho. In Jin's courtyard inside his house, he was admiring his own progress, saying to himself, wow, my physical abilities have been enhanced noticeably. After a good night's sleep, my body doesn't feel like my own. I feel superhuman. He noticed that even his 5 senses had improved. Feeling his enhanced body condition, Jin thought excitedly, and this is just the beginning. As my inner force grows and I reach greater heights, I will transcend humans even further. Martial arts really is amazing. I have already surpassed adulthood at this point. Probably because I have learned the Jagal clan's arcane techniques and taken the medicinal ball as well. Maybe I will even surpass the Demon King at this rate. He then reflected, no way, he is a natural killer, and I have already taught him a few secrets, so he is probably stronger. When he is ready, he will probably contact the clinic. He needs Jin Cheon-hee, at least until he defeats the sub-leader and truly ascends as a supreme Demon King. Lost in these thoughts about his martial arts journey and the Demon King, Jin suddenly heard a loud noise. The unexpected sound shocked him, pulling him abruptly out of his reverie.